My name is Jada Washington. I am 34 years old, and I am a nurse practitioner living in Atlanta, Georgia. 8 years ago, my husband Kevin disappeared into the dark waters of the Atlantic Ocean during a fishing trip. The police found his boat capsized and drifting aimlessly, but they never found his body. I became a widow at 26, left with nothing but a broken heart and a terrifying legacy. Kevin did not leave me life insurance or savings. He left me a massive, suffocating debt owed to some very dangerous people. Or at least that is what my mother-in-law Loretta told me. She claimed she stepped in to take the heat, putting her own safety on the line to shield me from his mistakes. So for 8 long years, every single month, I have sent her $300. I paid it religiously like clockwork, denying myself everything just to keep her safe. Until yesterday. Yesterday, my elderly neighbor, Ms. Higgins, stopped me at the gate, gripped my arm with a strength that surprised me, and whispered something that made my blood run cold. She said, "Stop sending the money, baby. Go home and check the security camera footage from the back of that old woman's house. You are not going to believe what you see. If you are listening to this and you have ever sacrificed your own happiness for family only to be betrayed, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel because I am about to take you on a journey of deception that will make you question everyone around you. Comment down below what city you are watching from and let me know if you trust your in-laws, because after today, you might want to think twice. The day my life fell apart started like any other Tuesday, which meant it was exhausting. I had just clocked out of a 12-hour shift at the hospital. My feet were throbbing inside my nursing clogs, swollen to the size of small hams, and I smelled like antiseptic and other people's sickness. I was walking across the parking lot just trying to find my car keys when my phone pinged with that sound. You know the sound, the bank notification. I looked down at the screen and saw the alert. $300 deducted. Transfer successful to Loretta, Washington. I let out a sigh that rattled my chest. That $300 was my grocery money for the next 2 weeks. It was the reason I was driving a 10-year-old sedan with a busted air conditioner while living in a cramped 1-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. But I told myself it was worth it. I told myself I was doing the right thing. Kevin had made mistakes gambling with people he should not have messed with, and his mother was the only reason those people were not breaking down my door. Before I could even unlock my car, my phone rang. The screen flashed, "Mama Loretta." I took a deep breath, put on my best dutiful daughter-in-law voice and answered, "Hey, Mama, I just saw the transfer go through. Did you get it?" I expected a thank you. Instead, I heard sobbing, loud theatrical wailing that sounded like she was auditioning for a soap opera. "Oh, Jada, thank God you picked up." They came back. Jada, those men came back. My stomach dropped. Who came back? The loan sharks. Yes. Loretta screamed into the phone. "They banged on the door this morning. They said the interest rates have gone up. They said 300 is not enough anymore. They want 500, Jada, 500 a month, or they are going to burn the house down with me inside it. $500. I leaned against my car feeling dizzy. "Mama, I cannot do 500. I am already picking up extra shifts just to cover the 300. I barely have enough for rent as it is." The crying on the other end stopped, instantly replaced by a cold, sharp guilt trip. "So, you want me to die? Is that it? After I saved you? After I took on your husband's mess? This is Kevin's debt." "Jada, my son, your husband. I am an old woman living on a fixed income. If you cannot help me, maybe I should just tell them where you live and let them come deal with you directly." The threat hit me like a physical slap. She knew I was terrified. She knew I was alone. "No, Mama, please." I stammered, tears stinging my eyes. "Do not do that. I will figure it out. I will take the night shifts on weekends. I will get you the money." She sniffled, her voice suddenly calm again. "Good girl. You are a good wife, Jada, even to a dead man. Bring me my blood pressure medication when you come over later. My heart is racing from all this fear." She hung up. I stood there in the humid parking lot, staring at the black screen. I felt like I was drowning. I looked around at the doctors driving away in their luxury SUVs going home to their big houses. Meanwhile, I was paying for a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs that I was not allowed to live in. That house was technically in Kevin's name, bought with our joint savings right before he died, but Loretta had moved in to watch over it, and somehow 8 years later, she was the queen of the castle, and I was the peasant sending tribute. I wiped my face, got in my car, and drove to the suburbs. I had to drop off her medication. I had to be the good girl. When I pulled into the driveway of the house that should have been mine, the lawn was immaculate. Freshly cut green, perfect. It looked like a picture from a magazine. I walked up the path, clutching the pharmacy bag, and before I could even ring the bell, the door swung open. It was Tiffany, my sister-in-law. She is the wife of Kevin's younger brother, but she spends more time at this house than she does at her own. Tiffany is a petite white woman with blonde hair that is always perfectly curled and a smile that never quite reaches her eyes. She calls herself a Southern belle, but I know a viper when I see one. "Hey, Jada," she chirped, blocking the doorway. "You look awful, sweetie. Just ragged." "Thanks, Tiffany," I said, trying to step past her. "I just worked 12 hours. Is Mama Loretta inside?" "I have her pills." Tiffany did not move. She leaned against the doorframe, looking me up and down with that fake sympathy that feels more like an insult. "She is resting. Her nerves are shot. You know how much stress you put her under with all this debt business. It is really hard on her, Jada." I felt a surge of anger. Me. Putting her under stress, I am the one paying for it. "I am doing my best, Tiffany," I said through gritted teeth. Tiffany reached out and patted my arm. Her hand lingered there, and then she slid it down towards my purse. "You know you are so tense. Why don't you come in and let me massage your shoulders? You carry so much weight." For a second, I thought she was being nice. But then I saw her eyes. She was not looking at my shoulders. She was staring directly at the side pocket of my purse where I usually kept cash tips. She was checking to see if I had brought the extra money Loretta demanded. I pulled away sharply. "I just need to drop this off and go." I handed her the bag. "Tell her I will have the extra 200 next week." Tiffany's smile sharpened. She snatched the bag. "I will tell her. You drive safe now, you hear? That car of yours sounds like it is about to explode." She slammed the door in my face. I walked back to my car, shaking with rage. I hated coming here. I hated how small they made me feel. I started the engine, backing out of the driveway, just wanting to go home and collapse. But as I reached the end of the street, I saw Ms. Higgins standing in her yard. Ms. Higgins has lived next door to Loretta for 30 years. She is a no-nonsense black woman in her 70s who spends all day tending to her prize-winning hydrangeas. We had never really spoken much other than a wave hello. As my car approached, she suddenly turned her garden hose directly onto my windshield. "What the hell?" I slammed on the brakes and rolled down the window. "Ms. Higgins, you are soaking my car." She did not apologize. She dropped the hose and walked right up to my window. Her face was grim. She looked left, then right, checking to see if anyone from Loretta's house was watching. "I had to get you to stop, baby," she whispered, leaning in close. "Listen to me. I do not have much time." "Ms. Higgins, what is going on?" She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a tiny black object, an SD card. "You are a good woman, Jada. You work hard. You honor your husband, and those people in that house are playing you for a fool." I took the card confused. "What is this, Ms.?" Higgins lowered her voice to a hiss. "I got a new security camera system installed last week, high definition, night vision. It points right over the fence into Loretta's backyard. Last night around 2 in the morning, I saw something. I saw a ghost, Jada. A ghost. I looked at her like she was crazy. Just watch it." She set her eyes intense and pleading. "Do not go back in there. Go home. Put that in your computer. And when you see what I saw, you promise me you will not come back here alone. You promise me." She looked terrified. A chill went down my spine that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. "I promise," I whispered. "Go. Now." I drove home with the tiny plastic square burning a hole in my passenger seat. My heart was pounding against my ribs. What could be on there? Was Loretta abusing drugs? Was Tiffany stealing from her? When I got to my apartment, I did not even take off my scrubs. I sat down at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. My hands were shaking so bad, I had to try twice to get the card into the slot. I opened the file. There was only one video time-stamped yesterday, 2:14 a.m. I pressed play. The video was grainy at first, black and white night vision. It showed the backyard of Loretta's house, the backyard where Kevin and I used to host barbecues. The patio furniture was new, expensive. I recognized the expensive smoker grill in the corner. For the first 30 seconds, nothing happened. Just the wind blowing the trees. I was about to close it, thinking Ms. Higgins was just a senile old lady. Then the back door opened. A figure stepped out. A man. He was big, heavy-set. He was wearing a t-shirt and boxer shorts. He was holding a beer in one hand and a cigarette in the other. He walked towards the edge of the patio, and my breath hitched in my throat. He had a limp. A very specific limp in his left leg. I stopped breathing. I leaned closer to the screen. No, it is not possible. Kevin had torn his ACL playing college football. He never got surgery for it. He always walked with that slight dip to the left when he was tired or barefoot. The man in the video turned around to face the house. The motion sensor light above the door clicked on, flooding the patio with bright white light. I screamed. I clamped my hand over my mouth to stifle the sound, but it came out as a strangled sob. It was him. It was Kevin. He was heavier. His beard was graying, but it was undeniably 100% Kevin. My dead husband. The man who drowned 8 years ago. The man I had been mourning every single day. The man whose debt I was starving myself to pay. He took a drag of his cigarette and laughed. The sound was muffled through the glass of the lens, but I knew that laugh. And then the door opened again. Tiffany stepped out. My sister-in-law. She was wearing a silk robe. Nothing else. She walked up behind him, wrapped her arms around his waist, and rested her head on his shoulder. Kevin turned. He kissed her. Not a friendly peck, a long, deep, passionate kiss. He grabbed her backside with a familiarity that made my stomach heave. They said something to each other and laughed again. Kevin gestured to the house, my house, and raised his beer like he was making a toast. A toast to the life he was living. A life funded by me. I paused the video. I stared at his face. He looked happy. He looked well-fed. He looked alive. The room started to spin. The heat rose up in my throat. I pushed the chair back, scrambled to the sink, and vomited until there was nothing left in my stomach. I heaved until my ribs ached, tears streaming down my face, mixing with the sweat and the sheer horror of it. 8 years. I had given them 8 years of my life. I had grieved for a ghost who was eating barbecue in my backyard. I washed my face with cold water, trembling so hard the water splashed all over the counter. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red. My face was gaunt from overwork. They thought I was weak. They thought I was stupid. They thought Jada the nurse would just keep paying and paying until she died of exhaustion. I looked back at the frozen image of Kevin and Tiffany kissing on the screen. I am not going to cry anymore. I wiped my mouth. Ms. Higgins was right. I saw a ghost. And now I was going to have to become an exorcist, because I was not just going to stop paying. I was going to make them wish they had actually died on that boat. I did not sleep a single minute that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the grainy black and white image of my dead husband kissing my sister-in-law in the backyard of the house I was paying for. I sat at my small kitchen table watching the sun come up over Atlanta. The light hit the peeling paint on my walls and the stack of unpaid utility bills next to my coffee cup. My hands were wrapped around the mug, but the coffee was ice cold. I had been sitting there like a statue for 6 hours, just breathing and trying to keep my heart from exploding out of my chest. I felt like I was vibrating with a mixture of pure rage and terrifying clarity. For 8 years, I had been walking through a fog of grief, but now the fog was gone, and all I could see was the sharp, jagged edges of their betrayal. My phone buzzed against the hard wood of the table. The sound was so loud in the quiet apartment that I flinched like a gunshot had gone off. I looked down. The screen lit up with the name Mama Loretta. My stomach twisted into a knot so tight it hurt. Yesterday, I would have answered this call with worry. I would have picked up thinking something was wrong or that she needed help. Today, I looked at that name and I felt a wave of nausea. I wanted to throw the phone across the room. I wanted to drive over there and scream in her face. I wanted to burn that house to the ground with all of them inside it. But I did not. I took a deep breath. I forced air into my lungs until they burned. I remembered the plan. Strategic silence. If I confronted them now, they would run. Kevin would disappear again, and this time I would never find him. Or worse, they would hurt me to keep their secret. I needed them comfortable. I needed them arrogant. I needed them to think I was still the stupid, loyal cash cow they had been milking for almost a decade. I cleared my throat. I pitched my voice up an octave. I put on the mask of the dutiful daughter-in-law. "Hello, Mama." I sounded tired. I sounded weak. It was perfect. "Jada." Loretta's voice cracked through the speaker. It was a masterpiece of performance art. She sounded frail and terrified. "I did not sleep a wink last night, baby. My chest is tight. I think my blood pressure is through the roof." I closed my eyes and gripped the edge of the table so hard my knuckles turned white. Of course she did not sleep. She was probably up late partying with her dead son and his mistress. "Oh no, Mama. I am so sorry. Did you take the pills I brought over yesterday?" "I did." She let out a long, wheezing sigh. "But they are not helping. The stress, Jada. It is the stress. I keep thinking about those men, the ones who came to the door. They said if I do not come up with more money, they are going to come back. They said they know you are working extra shifts and they expect a bigger payment. They want $500, Jada. But honestly, with the way my heart is feeling, I think I need to see a specialist. That costs money too. I do not know what to do. Maybe I should just let them take the house. Maybe I should just die and let Kevin rest in peace." The mention of his name made my vision blur with anger. How dare she? How dare she use his name to manipulate me when he was probably sitting in the next room eating pancakes? She was not just asking for $500. She was fishing. She was testing to see how much she could squeeze out of me before I broke. I knew exactly what I had to do. I had to feed the beast. I had to make them think they had won the lottery so they would stop looking over their shoulders. "Mama, listen to me." I injected panic into my voice. I made myself sound desperate. "Do not say that. Please do not talk about dying. You are the only family I have left." I paused for effect. I could hear her breathing on the other end, waiting for the payoff. I was looking at my schedule this morning. I picked up 3 extra night shifts at the hospital. It is going to be brutal, but the overtime pay is double. I heard a sharp intake of breath on her end. She could smell the money. "Really, Jada, you would do that?" "Yes, I am going to do it. And I am not just going to send you $500. If I work these shifts, I can send you $1,000 by next Friday." The silence on the line was deafening. $1,000. That was more than I made in a week. That was my rent money. That was my life. 1,000. Loretta's voice dropped the sick act for a split second. She sounded greedy. She sounded hungry. Yes, that would help a lot. That would keep the wolves away for a while. And I could see that heart specialist. "Oh, Jada, you are an angel. Kevin is smiling down on you right now, I just know it." I bit my lip so hard I tasted copper. "I hope so, Mama. I just want you to be safe. I want you to have everything you need. I will send you the money as soon as the check clears next week. But Mama, I need you to promise me something. Anything, baby. Anything. You need to rest. Do not stress. Stay in the house and lock the doors. I do not want you worrying about anything. Let me handle the burden." Okay, I promised her I would carry the weight. I promised her I would be the good little mule. You are a blessing, Jada. A true blessing. Go get some sleep before your shift. I love you. I love you too, Mama. I hung up the phone and set it down gently on the table. Then I stood up and screamed. It was a silent scream. I opened my mouth wide and let all the air out, but I made no sound. I shook my hands out, trying to get rid of the feeling of dirt that covered me. They took the bait. $1,000. That promise would buy me 7 days. For 7 days, they would be celebrating. They would be spending that money in their heads before they even got it. They would be laughing at how easy it was to manipulate stupid Jada. But while they were laughing, I would be hunting. I went to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes looked different. They looked harder. The Jada who cried over a dead husband was gone. The Jada who let her mother-in-law walk all over her was gone. I needed to understand the why. That was the piece of the puzzle that was driving me crazy. Why fake his death? I knew Kevin had gambling debts, but faking a death is a federal crime. It takes planning, it takes resources, and it takes an accomplice. My mind went to Tiffany. Tiffany with the blonde curls and the fake Southern accent. Tiffany, who was married to Kevin's younger brother, Marcus. Marcus was a truck driver who was on the road 11 months out of the year. He was a good man, a quiet man. He sent money home to Tiffany and trusted her to run their household. I thought about the timeline. 8 years ago, Kevin disappears. Tiffany was the rock of the family during the funeral. She was everywhere. She organized the catering. She dealt with the police. She was the one who identified the boat debris. I realized with a jolt that I had never actually seen the police report. Tiffany had told me she handled it so I would not be traumatized. She said she wanted to spare me the pain of the details. God, I was so blind. I walked back into the living room and started pacing. I thought about the interactions between Kevin and Tiffany before he died. There were signs. There are always signs. I remembered a family barbecue 3 months before the accident. Kevin was grilling. Tiffany was standing next to him holding a plate. I was across the yard playing with my nieces. I remembered looking over and seeing them whispering. They were standing too close. Their shoulders were touching. At the time, I thought nothing of it. They were in-laws. They were friends. But then I remembered something else. I remembered the way Tiffany looked at me that day. It was not kindness. It was pity, mixed with something darker, contempt. She knew back then. They were probably planning it right in front of my face. And why Tiffany? Why would she help him? Why would she betray her own husband, Marcus? Then it hit me. Money. It always comes down to money. Kevin had a life insurance policy. I knew about one small policy that barely covered the funeral. But Kevin was a broker. He knew how the system worked. What if there was another policy? A bigger one. One that I did not know about. If I was the beneficiary on a massive policy, the insurance company would have contacted me. They would have investigated me. But if I was not the beneficiary, who was Loretta? Or maybe Tiffany? If Loretta was the beneficiary, she would have gotten the payout. Millions of dollars. But then why fake the debt? Why make me pay $300 a month if they were sitting on a gold mine? Because they are cruel. That is why. It was not just about the money. It was about control. It was about punishment. Kevin hated me. I realize that now. He did not just want to leave me. He wanted to break me. He wanted to watch me suffer while he lived in luxury. And making me pay for his fake debt was the ultimate joke. Every month I sent that check he and Tiffany probably toasted to it. It was their monthly entertainment fee. And Tiffany, what did she get out of it? She got Kevin, and she got the money, and she got to play the grieving sister-in-law while her actual husband was out driving trucks across the country to support her. My blood ran cold. Marcus. Does Marcus know if Marcus knew he was the best actor in the world? But I did not think he knew. Marcus loved his brother. He fell apart when Kevin died. He fell into a deep depression. He worked harder and longer hours just to stay away from the sadness. Tiffany was playing both brothers. She was sleeping with the dead one in the big house and spending the living one's paycheck. This was not just a scam. This was a web, a complex, tangled, sticky web of lies that went deeper than I could have imagined. I sat back down at the computer. I had 7 days. 7 days before I had to hand over $1,000 that I did not have. 7 days to find the proof I needed to put them all in prison. I needed to get back into that house. The video from Ms. Higgins was a good start, but it was not enough. A dark, grainy video could be challenged in court. They could claim it was a look-alike. They could claim the video was doctored. I needed something concrete. I needed DNA, or fingerprints, or documents. I remembered that Loretta and Tiffany went to Bible study every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. They were religious about it. They would never miss a chance to go to church and show off their hats and pretend to be holy women of God. Wednesday. That was tomorrow. I looked at my shift schedule. I was supposed to work tomorrow morning. I picked up my phone and dialed the hospital scheduling desk. Hey, Brenda, it is Jada. I am not feeling well. I think I caught a bug. I need to call out for tomorrow morning. Yes, I know. I will make it up. I will take the double shift on the weekend, I promise. Thanks, Brenda. I hung up. I was going to break into my own house. Well, technically, Loretta's house. But I had a key. A key I had given to Kevin 10 years ago when we were dating. A key that Loretta thought I had lost years ago when I moved out. But I never lost it. I kept it on my keychain right next to my pepper spray. A sentimental keepsake from a life that was a lie. Now that key was going to be my weapon. I looked out the window again. The city was fully awake now. People were going to work. Kids were going to school. The world was normal. But my world had shrunk down to a single point of focus. I was going to destroy them. But first, I had to be the actress of a lifetime. I had to go to work today. I had to smile. I had to save lives. I had to pretend that my heart was not black with hate. I stood up and went to the shower. As the hot water hit my skin, I made a vow. I scrubbed my skin until it was red. I washed away the victim. I washed away the naive girl who trusted people. When I stepped out of that shower, I was something else. I was cold. I was calculating. I was exactly what they made me. I checked my bank account one last time. $300 gone. "Enjoy it, Loretta," I whispered to the empty room. "Enjoy your blood money. Because the bill is coming due, and the interest rate is going to be higher than you can ever afford." I put on my scrubs. I pulled my hair back into a tight bun. I looked in the mirror and practiced my smile. It looked genuine. It looked sweet. Perfect. I grabbed my keys and headed out the door. Phase 1 was complete. They were comfortable. They were expecting a payday. Tomorrow, while they were praying to a god they clearly did not fear, I was going to walk right into the devil's den and start lighting matches. Friday morning arrived with a gray, heavy sky that matched the knot in my stomach. I parked my rusted Honda 3 blocks away, nestled behind a large oak tree so nobody would spot me. I knew their schedule better than I knew my own medical charts. At 9:45 sharp, Loretta's garage door would open. At 9:50, Tiffany would pull out in her pristine white SUV, with Loretta in the passenger seat, wearing one of those ridiculous oversized church hats that cost more than my monthly car payment. They were heading to their women's prayer group, where they would hold hands and pray for the poor souls of the world, while actively destroying mine. I watched them drive past. I slumped low in my seat, holding my breath until the taillights of that SUV disappeared around the corner. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. This was it. I was about to commit a felony. Breaking and entering. Burglary. Call it what you want, but in my mind I was just taking back what was stolen from me. I waited 5 more minutes just to be safe. Then I got out of the car. I pulled my hood up and walked quickly towards the house. The house I paid for. The house where my husband supposedly grew up. The house that was currently a fortress of lies. I walked up the driveway trying to look casual like I belonged there. My hand was sweating around the key in my pocket. This key was a relic. Kevin gave it to me when we first got engaged, back when I thought he was Prince Charming and not a sociopath in disguise. When he died, Loretta asked for all the keys back. I gave her my main set, but I kept this spare one. I told myself back then it was for sentimental reasons. Now I knew it was God looking out for me. I reached the front door. I looked left. I looked right. The street was empty. The suburban silence was deafening. I slid the key into the lock. For a terrifying second, it stuck. I thought maybe they had changed the locks. Maybe I was done before I even started. But then with a little jiggle and a prayer it turned. Click. The sound was louder than a gunshot in the quiet morning. I pushed the door open and slipped inside, closing it softly behind me. The smell hit me first. It did not smell like an old lady's house. It smelled like expensive cologne and stale cigarette smoke. It smelled like him. Kevin. My knees almost buckled. Being in this house, knowing he was alive somewhere nearby, was making me dizzy. I moved through the foyer. The house was spotless. Tiffany really was a good little maid. I crept past the living room, avoiding the creaky floorboard near the sofa that I remembered from years ago. My target was down the hall. The master suite was where Loretta slept, but the guest wing was where Kevin's old room was. Loretta called it the shrine. She told everyone she kept it locked because it was too painful to go inside. She said she wanted to preserve his memory exactly as it was the day he died. What a load of garbage! I reached the door to the room. It was locked, of course. I tried the handle, but it would not budge. I did not have a key for this one. I looked around, panic starting to rise. I did not have time to pick a lock. I was a nurse, not a cat burglar. Then I remembered. The hallway table. There was a decorative vase filled with fake lilies. Kevin used to hide his weed stash in there when we were dating, so his mom would not find it. It was his favorite hiding spot. I reached into the vase, pushing aside the dusty plastic stems. My fingers brushed against something cold and metallic. I almost laughed out loud. Creatures of habit. Stupid, arrogant creatures of habit. I pulled out a small silver key. I was about to put it in the lock when a sound froze the blood in my veins. A heavy truck engine roared outside. Then the squeal of brakes. I heard heavy footsteps coming up the driveway. Fast, confident. Thump, thump, thump. I pressed my back against the wall, my eyes wide with terror. The doorbell rang. Bing, bong. It echoed through the empty house like a siren. I stopped breathing. I did not move. I did not blink. Please go away. Please go away. A fist pounded on the door. FedEx package for Loretta, Washington. Silence. I could hear the driver shifting his weight on the porch. He was waiting. If he looked through the side window, he might see my shadow in the hallway. If he thought someone was home and not answering, he might call out. Or worse, maybe Loretta had a smart doorbell that sent a video feed to her phone. I realized with horror that I had not checked for a Ring camera. How could I be so stupid? I squeezed my eyes shut, praying to every ancestor I had. The driver pounded one more time. Hello, anybody home? My lungs were burning. I needed to cough, but I swallowed it down. Finally, I heard the beep of a scanner, then the sound of a heavy box being dropped on the porch. All right then, the driver muttered. I heard his footsteps retreating. The engine started up again, and the truck rumbled away. I let out a breath that sounded like a sob. My legs were shaking so bad, I had to lean against the doorframe for support. I checked the time on my watch. I had wasted precious minutes. I had to move. I turned back to the locked door. I shoved the silver key in. It turned smoothly. I pushed the door open and stepped into the truth. The room was not a shrine. It was a man cave, and it was definitely being used. The curtains were drawn tight, blocking out the sun, but in the dim light, I could see everything. The bed was unmade. There were clothes scattered on the floor, men's clothes, size XL, the same size Kevin wore. There were fast food wrappers on the nightstand, beer bottles, an ashtray overflowing with cigarette butts. I walked over to the dresser. My reflection in the mirror looked like a ghost. I started opening drawers. Underwear, socks, t-shirts. Nothing incriminating. Just the mundane details of a man living a secret life. I turned to the closet. It was full of suits. Expensive suits. The kind of suits a dead man with a massive debt should not be able to afford. I fell to my knees and started feeling around the bottom of the closet. I pushed aside shoeboxes and dry cleaning bags. At the very back, hidden behind a stack of old magazines, I felt a metal box, a fireproof document safe. I pulled it out. It was heavy. It was locked, but the key was right there taped to the bottom of the box. They were so lazy. They were so confident that nobody would ever come in here. I peeled the tape off and unlocked the box. The lid creaked open. The first thing I saw was a passport. A blue American passport. But the photo was not Kevin. Well, it was Kevin, but he had a shaved head and glasses. I picked it up. My hands were trembling. Name, David Vance. Date of birth, July 12, 1980. It was a fake ID, a high-quality one, the kind that costs serious money on the black market. So that was his name now, David. He was not my husband Kevin anymore. He was David Vance. I dug deeper into the box. There was a thick file folder. I opened it, and the paper inside made my knees hit the floor. It was a letter from Pioneer Life Insurance. Dear Mrs. Washington, we are pleased to inform you that your claim regarding the accidental death of Kevin Washington has been approved. Enclosed is the check for the full benefit amount of $2 million. $2 million. I stared at the number. The zeros swam before my eyes. Date, October 15th, 2016. They got the money 1 month after the funeral. 1 month after I stood by an empty casket and cried until I passed out, they were cashing a check for $2 million. And for 8 years, they watched me struggle. They watched me work double shifts. They watched me drive a car that broke down every other week. They watched me wear shoes with holes in the soles, and they demanded $300 a month from me. Why? Why torture me if they had millions? Because they hated me. Because to them, I was not a person. I was a toy. I was something to play with, something to break. Hot tears streamed down my face, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of pure molten fury. I took out my phone and started snapping pictures. I took a picture of the passport. I took a picture of the insurance letter. I took a picture of the check stub. I put the papers back, but as I was closing the box, I saw something else tucked into the side pocket. An iPad. An old one with a cracked screen. I pulled it out. I pressed the power button. Please have battery, please. The Apple logo appeared. Thank God. He must have left it in here recently. It booted up. Passcode required. I tried Kevin's birthday. Incorrect. I tried Loretta's birthday. Incorrect. I tried the date of our wedding. Incorrect. I paused. I closed my eyes and thought about the video, the way he kissed her, the way Tiffany looked at him. I typed in Tiffany's birthday, 0412. The screen unlocked. I felt a wave of nausea so strong I had to swallow bile. Of course, it was her. It was always her. I opened the Messages app. The threads were old, dating back 8 years right before the accident. I scrolled to the bottom, to the days leading up to his disappearance. Contact name, Tiff Tiff. Aug 20, 2016. Kevin. Did you get the boat ready? Aug 20, 2016. Tiffany. Yes, baby. It is all set. Marcus is going to be in Texas all week. The coast is clear. Aug 21, 2016. Kevin. I can't wait to be done with this life. I can't wait to be done with Jada. She is so boring. She is dragging me down. Aug 21, 2016. Tiffany. Just a few more days and we will be free. Just make sure you make it look convincing. Do not leave any traces. Aug 22, 2016. Kevin. What about the insurance? Are you sure my mom is on board? Aug 22, 2016. Tiffany Loretta is greedy. She will do anything for a cut. She hates Jada anyway. She says Jada is not good enough for you. We just need to make sure Jada thinks she owes the debt so she doesn't go sniffing around the finances. Aug 23, 2016. Kevin Genius. We will bleed her dry, even after I am gone. A parting gift for being such a nagging wife. I dropped the iPad. It hit the carpet with a dull thud. I sat there on the floor of my dead husband's room, hugging my knees to my chest. They planned it. All of it. It was not an accident. It was not a tragedy. It was a heist. And I was the victim. Tiffany helped him stage the boat accident. Tiffany, who held my hand at the memorial service. Tiffany, who told me I was so strong. She was the architect of my destruction. She was sleeping with my husband while I was working to pay for their lifestyle. And Loretta knew. She was the beneficiary. She took the $2 million and then she looked me in the eye and told me there was a debt. She invented the loan sharks. There were no loan sharks. The men banging on the door, probably paid actors, or maybe just Kevin's friends scaring me for fun. The cruelty was bottomless. It was a deep, dark well of evil. I looked at the time. I had been in the house for 20 minutes. They would be at church for another hour, but I could not risk it. I had what I needed. I picked up the iPad. I was taking it. Let them think they misplaced it. Let them tear the house apart looking for it. I put the passport back in the box. I put the insurance papers back. I wanted everything to look undisturbed. I wanted them to feel safe for just a little longer. I locked the box. I put it back under the debris in the closet. I wiped the handle of the drawer with my sleeve to remove fingerprints. I stood up and looked around the room one last time. "Goodbye, Kevin," I whispered. "You died 8 years ago. But David Vance is going to die next week, and this time there will be no resurrection." I slipped out of the room. I locked the door with the silver key and put the key back in the vase under the dusty lilies. I walked down the hall past the family photos on the wall, photos of Kevin and Marcus as children, photos of Loretta smiling. No photos of me. I had been erased from this house a long time ago. I opened the front door and stepped out into the fresh air. The sun was trying to break through the clouds now. I walked back to my car, keeping my head down. When I got inside and locked the doors, I let out a scream that tore at my throat. I screamed until I was hoarse. I beat the steering wheel with my fists until my hands ached. Then I stopped. I looked at the iPad on the passenger seat. I had the gun. Now I just needed to pull the trigger. I started the car and drove away. I was not going home. I was going to see a lawyer. And then I was going to plan a party, a very special memorial service. Because if they wanted a show, I was going to give them a finale they would never forget. You know, they say God works in mysterious ways. Sometimes he moves mountains to help you, and sometimes he just has a really twisted sense of humor. Monday morning at the hospital was chaos. It was the kind of shift that makes you question why you ever went into nursing. The ER was overflowing. We had a multi-car pileup on the interstate and a flu outbreak that had half the city coughing their lungs out. I was running on caffeine and pure adrenaline. Because of the flu protocol, we were on high alert. That meant full personal protective equipment. I am talking about the whole 9 yards. A yellow isolation gown that rustled when I walked, 2 pairs of gloves, a N95 mask that pinched the bridge of my nose, and a plastic face shield that covered me from forehead to chin. I looked like an astronaut. You could not see my face. You could not see my hair. You could barely see my eyes behind the glare of the plastic shield. I was anonymous, just another faceless worker bee in the hive. I was at the nurse's station charting a patient's vitals when the charge nurse flagged me down. Jada, we have a walk-in in exam room 4, minor traffic accident. Says his wrist is sprained and he has a cut on his hand. He is being difficult. He is demanding a private room and refusing to let the triage nurse touch him. Can you go handle it? You are good with the difficult ones. I sighed. Just what I needed. An entitled jerk with a boo-boo. I grabbed a suture kit and a tetanus shot just in case. I marched down the hallway, my gown swishing with every step. I was annoyed. I was tired. I just wanted to get this guy treated and get him out so I could focus on patients who were actually dying. I pushed open the door to exam room 4. The patient was sitting on the edge of the bed. He was wearing a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes and a thick black face mask. He had a hoodie on with the hood up. He looked like he was trying to hide from the paparazzi. "Good morning, sir," I said, my voice muffled behind my own mask. "I am the nurse practitioner. I hear you hurt your hand." He did not look up. He just grunted and held out his right hand. "Just clean it up and wrap it," he muttered. "I do not need a lecture. I just need to get out of here." His voice. I froze. My hand stopped in midair, reaching for the saline bottle. The sound was rougher than I remembered, deeper, maybe from smoking, but the cadence was the same. The arrogance in the tone was the same. I shook my head. No, it could not be. "Jada, stop it. You are seeing ghosts everywhere now. You are paranoid." I stepped closer, forcing myself to be professional. I took his hand in my gloved hands. It was a large hand, rough palms, the hand of a man who worked, or at least pretended to. There was a jagged cut across his knuckles. It was bleeding sluggishly. Nothing deep enough for stitches, but it needed cleaning. I started wiping away the dried blood with a piece of gauze. He flinched and hissed in pain. "Watch it," he snapped. "Do you know what you are doing, or did you get your degree online?" I ignored the insult. I was used to rude patients. I turned his hand over to check for other injuries. And then my world stopped spinning. Right there on the back of his hand, just below the thumb, was a scar. It was a thin white line shaped almost like a lightning bolt. It was an old scar, faded but distinct. I knew that scar. I knew exactly how he got it. 10 years ago, Kevin and I were at a bar watching a football game. He got into an argument with a guy who spilled a drink on his jersey. Kevin had a temper back then. He swung at the guy, missed, and punched a neon beer sign on the wall. The glass shattered and sliced his hand open. I drove him to the ER that night. I held his hand while they stitched him up. I kissed that scar 1,000 times over the years. I stared at the white line on this stranger's hand. I looked up at his eyes hidden under the brim of the hat. They were hazel, green with flecks of brown. Kevin. It was him. He was sitting right in front of me. The dead man, the ghost, my husband. My heart started hammering so hard, I thought he would see it beating through my gown. My breath came in short, ragged gasps inside my mask. The room started to tilt. He was here, in my hospital. I was holding his hand. He did not know who I was. To him, I was just a pair of eyes behind a plastic shield. I was just a nurse. "Are you going to finish, or are you just going to stare at it?" he barked, pulling his hand back. I snapped back to reality. I had to keep it together. If I panicked, if I said his name, he would run, and I would lose him. "I am sorry, sir," I said, forcing my voice to drop an octave, making it sound gruff and impersonal. "Just checking for nerve damage. Does this hurt?" I pressed my thumb hard into the bruise around the cut, harder than I needed to. "Ouch!" He yanked his hand away. "Are you crazy?" "Yes, it hurts." "Good. That means the nerves are working." I turned away to grab the antibiotic ointment. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the tube. I had to grip the counter to steady myself. Rage was boiling up inside me like lava. Here he was, breathing, talking, complaining about a cut on his hand while I had spent 8 years bleeding out from the wound he left in my soul. Suddenly the door to the exam room flew open. I jumped. Kevin jumped. A woman burst in. She was wearing a white cashmere coat that probably cost more than my car. Her blonde curls were bouncing. Her face was flushed. "Tiffany, oh my God, baby, are you okay?" She rushed over to the bed, ignoring me completely. She threw her arms around him, burying her face in his neck. "I was so scared when you called. Is the car okay? Did anyone see you?" Kevin shushed her, pushing her away slightly. "Keep it down, Tiff. I am fine. It is just a scratch." Tiffany turned to look at me. Her eyes swept over my yellow gown and face shield with a look of pure disdain. She looked at me like I was the help, like I was a piece of furniture. "Well," she demanded, snapping her fingers at me, "why aren't you doing anything?" "He is bleeding." "Do your job." I stood there paralyzed. This was my sister-in-law. The woman I had hugged at Christmas, the woman I had cried with, the woman who told me I was her sister, and here she was calling my dead husband baby and treating me like dirt. The audacity, the sheer unadulterated evil of these two people. It was breathtaking. I wanted to rip off my mask. I wanted to scream, "I am Jada," right in their faces. I wanted to see the color drain from their skin, but I couldn't. Not yet. I needed proof. The video was good. The papers were good. But DNA was the nail in the coffin. DNA was undeniable. I took a deep breath. I channeled every ounce of self-control I possessed. "I am just preparing his tetanus shot, ma'am," I said quietly. "Standard procedure for open wounds." Tiffany rolled her eyes. "Well, hurry up. We have places to be. We do not have time to sit around in this germ-infested dump." She turned back to Kevin, stroking his arm. Her hand moved over his shoulder affectionately. "Does it hurt much, baby? You are so brave. I hate that you got hurt." Kevin leaned into her touch. "It is fine, babe. Just tell this incompetent nurse to hurry up so we can go." Incompetent. The word echoed in my head. I was the top nurse practitioner in my unit. I saved lives every single day. I paid his mother's bills. I paid his debts. And he called me incompetent. I turned around holding the syringe. The needle glinted under the fluorescent lights. I have a choice right now, I thought. I could stab this needle right into his eye. I could end it right here. But that would be too easy. That would be mercy. And I was fresh out of mercy. I walked over to the bed. "I need you to roll up your sleeve, sir," I said. Kevin grunted and pulled up the sleeve of his hoodie. His arm was thick, muscular. He had been working out, living the good life while I withered away. I swabbed his skin with alcohol. The smell was sharp and pungent. Tiffany hovered right over my shoulder. "Be careful," she warned. "Do not hurt him. If you leave a bruise, I will report you to your supervisor." I looked at her through my face shield. "You have no idea who you are talking to," I thought. "You are going to be reporting to a prison warden soon enough." I positioned the needle. Little prick, I said. I jabbed the needle into his arm. I did not do it gently. I put a little extra force behind it. Ow, Kevin jerked. Watch it, you cow. I pushed the plunger down, injecting the vaccine. All done, I said, pulling the needle out. Now for the hard part. The DNA. I needed a sample. A hair was the best bet. He was wearing that hat, but a few strands of graying hair were sticking out near his ears. I grabbed a Band-Aid. I am just going to put this on, I said, leaning in close. I applied the Band-Aid to his arm, then pretending to lose my balance slightly, I reached up to steady myself on the pillow behind his head. My hand brushed against his neck. My fingers found a loose stray hair clinging to the collar of his hoodie. Hey, watch what you are doing! Tiffany shrieked, grabbing my arm. Get away from him! I pulled my hand back, clutching the prize between my thumb and forefinger. I'm so sorry, ma'am, I stammered, playing the part of the clumsy fool. I just tripped. My goggles are foggy. Get out! Tiffany yelled, pointing at the door. Just get out. We are leaving. Kevin stood up, cradling his hand. Useless, he muttered. This place is a joke. Come on, Tiff. Let's go to a real doctor. He slid off the bed. He brushed past me, and for a second his shoulder bumped mine. My husband. The man I vowed to love until death do us part. He walked out the door without looking back. Tiffany followed him, her heels clicking on the linoleum, turning back once to give me a dirty look. Learn to do your job, sweetie, she sneered, or find a new career. The door swung shut behind them. I was alone in the room. The silence rushed back in. I stood there for a long time, staring at the closed door. My heart was pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. Slowly, carefully, I opened my hand. There against the blue latex of my glove was a single thick strand of hair. The root was still attached. A tiny white bulb. DNA. I walked over to the counter. I grabbed a sterile sample cup. I dropped the hair inside and screwed the lid on tight. I labeled it John Doe, but I knew the name. I leaned against the counter and started to laugh. It was a dry, humorless sound. Incompetent, useless. A cow. Okay, Kevin. Okay, Tiffany. You think you walked out of here free. You think you just had a bad experience with a clumsy nurse, but you just handed me the weapon that is going to end you. I peeled off my face shield. I ripped off the mask, gasping for fresh air. I looked at my reflection in the glass cabinet. I did not look like a victim anymore. I looked like a hunter who just trapped her prey. I put the sample cup in my pocket. I walked out of the room. Hey, Jada, the charge nurse called out from the desk. Did you survive? He sounded like a nightmare. I smiled, a real cold smile. Oh, I survived, I said, and do not worry about him. He won't be bothering anyone for much longer. I had the video, I had the papers, and now I had the biology. It was time to make a phone call. It was time to invite the family over for dinner. Because revenge is a dish best served cold, and I had just put the main course in the freezer. I drove straight from the hospital to downtown Atlanta. I did not even change out of my scrubs. I wanted to look like I was coming from work. I wanted to look normal, but inside my purse next to my stethoscope was a plastic cup containing a hair sample from a dead man and an iPad that held the secrets of a felony. I pulled up to a glass high-rise building that scraped the sky. This was the office of King and Associates, Derek King. We went to Howard University together back in the day. He was the kind of friend who would answer your call at 3 a.m, no questions asked. He was a shark in the courtroom, but a teddy bear to the people he loved. And right now, I needed a shark. I needed a great white. I walked past the receptionist who tried to stop me, but when she saw the look on my face, she just sat back down. I marched straight to the corner office and opened the door. Derek was on the phone laughing. He looked up surprised. When he saw my face, his smile vanished. He hung up the phone without saying goodbye. Jada. What is wrong? You look like you have seen a ghost. I closed the door and locked it. I walked over to his mahogany desk and I started emptying my purse. The iPad, the photos I printed out from the library on my way here, the plastic cup with the hair. I did not see a ghost, Derek. I said, my voice steady and cold. I saw my husband. Derek looked at me like I was having a mental breakdown. Jada, honey, sit down. Kevin died 8 years ago. We were at the funeral, remember? He is not dead, I said. I pushed the iPad towards him. Unlock it. The passcode is 041. Read the messages. Derek hesitated. He looked at me with deep concern, probably wondering if he needed to call a psychiatrist. But he picked up the iPad. He punched in the code. I watched his face. I watched his eyes scan the screen. I watched his eyebrows shoot up. I watched his jaw drop. He swiped through the photos I took of the passport and the insurance papers. He read the text messages between Kevin and Tiffany. The silence in the room was heavy. It was thick with the weight of 8 years of lies. Jesus, Derek whispered. He looked up at me, and his eyes were wide with shock. Jada, this is insane. He is alive, David Vance. He is alive, I confirmed. And he was in my ER this morning. I gave him a tetanus shot. That is his hair in the cup. Derek stared at the cup. Then he looked back at the papers. $2 million. They cashed out $2 million, and they have been bleeding you dry for $300 a month. He slammed his hand on the desk. It made me jump. That is evil, Jada. That is pure, unadulterated evil. We are going to bury them. I am calling the police right now. The FBI. This is wire fraud, insurance fraud, identity theft. He reached for his desk phone. I sat there feeling a rush of relief. Yes, call them. End this nightmare. But then Derek stopped. His hand hovered over the receiver. He frowned. He slowly pulled his hand back. Wait, what I asked. Why are you stopping? Call them, Derek. I want him in handcuffs today. Derek stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city. He was in lawyer mode now. I could see the gears turning in his head. We cannot call them yet, Jada. What do you mean we cannot call them? I stood up, my voice rising. He faked his death. He stole millions. He is sleeping with his sister-in-law. What more do you need? Derek turned around. His face was grim. Jada, listen to me. If we call the cops right now, they will raid that house. They will arrest Kevin and Loretta and Tiffany. Yes, but think about how this looks from the outside. He walked over to me and put his hands on my shoulders. You have been paying Loretta every month for 8 years. You have been in contact with them constantly. You are the wife. In the eyes of the law, spouses are usually the first suspects in insurance fraud. But I didn't know I screamed. I was the victim. I know that, Derek said calmly, and you know that. But can you prove it? I pointed at the iPad, the texts. They talk about hiding it from me. Derek shook his head. Those texts are 8 years old, Jada. A good defense lawyer could argue that you found out later. They could argue that you joined the scheme afterwards. They could say that the $300 a month was not a debt payment, but a way to launder money or a way to pass cash between conspirators. They could say you knew he was alive the whole time and you were just playing the grieving widow to throw off suspicion. I felt the blood drain from my face. No way. Jada, look at the money. Derek continued. $2 million. If the feds get involved, they freeze everything, every asset, every bank account. If Loretta and Kevin are smart, and criminals usually are when it comes to money, that cash is not sitting in a checking account at Bank of America. It is in shell companies. It is in crypto. It is offshore. If we spook them now, if the police show up and do not find the money immediately, Kevin and Tiffany could claim they spent it all. Or worse, they could have it hidden somewhere you will never find. He took a deep breath. And here is the kicker. If they get arrested and they realize they are going down for 20 years, what is their best move? They will cut a deal. They will point the finger at you. They will say, Jada was the mastermind. Jada planned the boat accident. We were just following her lead. But that is a lie. I shouted, tears stinging my eyes. It does not matter if it is a lie, Derek said softly. It matters what a jury believes. And right now you look like the dutiful wife who stayed close to the family. If they spin it right, you could end up on trial right next to them. And even if you are acquitted, you will spend your life savings on legal fees, and your reputation as a nurse will be destroyed. I sank back into the chair. I felt sick. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. So what do we do? I whispered. Do I just let them get away with it? Derek smiled. It was a cold, sharp smile. The shark was back. Hell no. We do not let them get away with anything. We just need to be smarter than them. We do not just need evidence that they are guilty. We need evidence that you are innocent." He walked back to his desk and opened a drawer. He pulled out a small black device. It looked like a pen. "Georgia is a one-party consent state, Jada. That means as long as you are part of the conversation, you can record it without telling the other person." He slid the device across the desk to me. "We need a confession. But not just a confession that Kevin is alive. We need them to admit specifically that they scammed you. We need them to laugh about how stupid you are. We need them to say out loud that you have no idea what is going on." I looked at the pen. It looked so ordinary. "I need you to get them comfortable," Derek said. "I need you to get them talking. You said you promised them $1,000 next week. Yes, good. Use that. Money makes people sloppy. Greed makes people loose-lipped. You need to create a situation where they feel safe enough to brag, safe enough to reveal the mechanism of the crime." I nodded slowly. "I can do that. I am planning something. A memorial service." Derek raised an eyebrow. "A memorial service? For the husband who is alive," I nodded. "A fake memorial for a fake death." I told them I came into some money. I told them I wanted to do something big for Kevin's memory. I want to get them all in one room. Kevin, Loretta, Tiffany. Derek leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "That is risky. If Kevin is there, he will be in disguise." "He will be hiding," I said. "He was in the house when I broke in. He hides in the attic or the guest room when people come over. But if I set it up right, if I make them think the big payout is coming..." Derek nodded. "Okay. Here's the plan. You wear a wire. Not just the pen. I will have my private investigator rig you up with a professional-grade recorder. We will put cameras in your purse. We need audio and video." He leaned forward, his eyes locking onto mine. "You have to get them to say it, Jada. You have to play the victim one last time. You have to ask them about the debt. Ask them why it is so high. Cry, beg, make them feel powerful. When they feel powerful, they will slip up." "I can do that," I said. "I have been playing the victim for 8 years. I can do it for one more night." "And the money?" Derek asked. "The assets." "That is the second part," he said. "Once we have that recording, we do not go to the local cops. We go straight to the district attorney. I have a contact there. With a confession on tape clearing your name, we can get immunity for you before charges are even filed. We can get a warrant to freeze their assets immediately before they even know they are under investigation. We can seize the house. We can seize the cars. We can seize every dime they stole." He paused. "But you have to be careful, Jada. If they suspect you know, if Kevin thinks you are a threat, these people faked a death. They are capable of anything." I touched the scar on my hand where I had dug my nails in earlier. "I know," I said. "Kevin is dangerous. He has no conscience. But he is also arrogant. He thinks I am a weak, pathetic woman who is obsessed with his memory. He thinks I am in love with a ghost." "Use that," Derek said. "Let him think you are weak. Let him think he is the smartest man in the room. And then when the trap snaps shut, he won't even see it coming." I picked up the pen. It felt heavy in my hand. It was not just a recording device. It was my freedom. I stood up. "Thank you, Derek." He stood up and hugged me. It was a fierce, protective hug. "We are going to get them, Jada. We are going to take everything. By the time we are done, they are going to wish they had drowned on that boat." I walked out of his office feeling different. When I walked in, I was a woman looking for help. Now I was a woman with a plan. I drove home in silence, planning every move. The memorial service, that would be the stage. I would tell Loretta I wanted to host a dinner at her house, a private, intimate gathering before the big church service. Just family. Me, Loretta, Tiffany, Marcus. Wait. Marcus. I frowned. Kevin's brother. Tiffany's husband. I had not thought about where he fit in all this. Was he a victim too, or was he part of it? If he was part of it, I was walking into a den of 4 lions, not 3. But if he was a victim, if his wife was cheating on him with his dead brother, then Marcus was a wild card. If I brought Marcus into the room and revealed the truth, the explosion would be nuclear. I gripped the steering wheel. I had to risk it. I needed Marcus there. If he was innocent, he deserved to know. And if he was guilty, he deserved to go down with them. I pulled into my apartment complex. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of blood orange and bruise purple. I walked into my tiny apartment. I looked at the peeling wallpaper. I looked at the empty fridge. I sat down on my couch and turned on the TV just to have some noise, but I wasn't watching. I was rehearsing my lines. I picked up my phone. I dialed Loretta's number. It rang twice. "Hello, Mama. It is Jada. Hey, baby. You sound better. Did you get some rest?" I forced a tremble into my voice. "Yes, Mama. I did. I have been thinking. Since I am picking up all these extra shifts and getting that bonus money, I want to do something special. Next Saturday is the 8-year anniversary exactly." I heard her hesitate. "What kind of special? I want to host a dinner. At the house. I will pay for everything. I will order catering from that expensive steakhouse Kevin loved. Just us. You meet Tiffany and Marcus if he is in town. I want to bring you the check for the $1,000 personally. And I have another surprise. Something big." Silence on the other end. She was processing. "Steak, money, surprise." "Well, that sounds lovely, Jada. Marcus is actually coming home this weekend. It would be nice to have the family together." "Great," I said. "I will come over early to set up. I want everything to be perfect for Kevin." "You are such a sweet girl," Loretta said. "Kevin was so lucky to have you." I smiled at the phone, a dark, dangerous smile. "No, Mama," I whispered. "I am the lucky one, because I am finally going to meet the real Kevin." I hung up. The trap was set. The legal safety net was in place thanks to Derek. Now I just had to survive the performance of a lifetime. I looked at the black pen on my coffee table. 1 week until showtime. I laid back on the couch and closed my eyes. For the first time in 8 years, I did not dream of Kevin drowning. I dreamed of him in an orange jumpsuit shackled to a bench, and it was the sweetest dream I ever had. I spent the next 3 days in a fugue state of planning. I was not Jada the nurse anymore. I was Jada the event planner, Jada the loving widow, Jada the golden goose. I went to the bank and withdrew $5,000 from my meager savings. It was everything I had. If this plan failed, I would be destitute. But I needed props. I needed to look like money. I bought a new dress. Not the scrubs I lived in or the thrift store jeans I wore on weekends. I went to Lenox Mall and bought a designer dress. It was emerald green silk, and it cost $800. I bought shoes to match. I got my hair done. I got my nails done. I wanted to walk into that house looking like $1,000,000 so they would believe I had $500,000 more in the bank. Saturday afternoon rolled around. The air was crisp and cool, the kind of fall day that usually made me feel hopeful. Today it just made me feel cold. I loaded my car with the catering trays. I had ordered enough food to feed an army, even though it was just going to be 4 of us. 5, if you counted the ghost in the attic. I pulled up to Loretta's house. The driveway was empty. Tiffany's SUV was gone, probably out picking up Marcus from the airport. I took a deep breath. "Showtime, Jada." I walked up to the door and rang the bell. Loretta opened it. She was wearing a black dress, looking somber and tragic. But the moment she saw me, her eyes widened. She looked at the dress. She looked at the shoes. She looked at the professional blowout. "Well, look at you," she said, stepping back to let me in. "You look expensive." I smiled, a bright, dazzling smile that didn't reach my eyes. "I feel expensive, Mama. It is a new day, a new chapter." I walked into the kitchen and started setting up. I made sure to be loud. I clattered the trays. I hummed a gospel song. I wanted whoever was listening to know I was here, and I was happy. Loretta hovered around me like a vulture. "So Jada," she started casually picking at a deviled egg. "You mentioned a surprise on the phone. Something about winning." I stopped what I was doing. I leaned in close to her. "Mama, you are not going to believe it. I bought a scratch-off ticket at the gas station last Tuesday, just on a whim. I never do that. But something told me to buy it. And Mama," I paused for dramatic effect, "I won." Loretta stopped chewing. "How much? $500,000. Loretta choked. She actually choked on the egg. She started coughing and hacking her face, turning red. I patted her back gently. Careful, Mama. Breathe. 500,000, she wheezed when she could speak. Cash. After taxes, it is a little less. But yes, it is in my account right now. I saw the wheels turning in her head. I saw the dollar signs flashing in her eyes. It was disgusting. And here is the best part, I continued. I know how much I owe you. I know how much stress this debt has caused you. So I decided I am going to give you half. Half. Loretta's voice squeaked. $250,000. Yes, I want to pay off the debt completely, and I want you to have enough to fix up the house and live comfortably. Kevin would want that. Loretta grabbed my hand. Her palms were sweaty. Oh, Jada. Oh, my sweet child, I knew it. I knew God would provide. She hugged me. I hugged her back, feeling her bony shoulders shaking. She wasn't crying tears of joy for me. She was crying tears of joy for her bank account. But I have the check in my car, I said, pulling away. I want to give it to you tonight. When everyone is here, I want to make a toast to Kevin. Of course, Loretta said, wiping her dry eyes. Of course, baby. Let me go freshen up. I need to look my best for such a blessing. She practically ran out of the kitchen. As soon as she was gone, I stopped smiling. I reached into my purse and pulled out the small black devices Derek had given me. Tiny bugs, smaller than a dime. I stuck one under the kitchen island counter. I walked into the living room. I stuck one behind the family portrait on the mantelpiece. I walked to the bottom of the stairs. I knew where Kevin was. He had to be in the attic or the guest room. I couldn't go up there without risking getting caught, but I needed to hear what they were saying. I stood at the bottom of the stairs and listened. The house was old. The vents carried sound. I heard a floorboard creak upstairs. Then I heard a door open. Then I heard whispering. Did she say 500 grand? It was him. Kevin. His voice was low, urgent. Yes, Loretta hissed back. She is giving me half 250,000, Kevin. That is more than we made in the last 2 years. I heard Kevin laugh. A low, nasty chuckle. Stupid bitch. She wins the lottery, and the first thing she does is give it to us. God, I love her stupidity. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. So what is the plan, Loretta asked. Do we just take the check and kick her out? No, Kevin said. If she has 500K, why are we settling for half? What do you mean? If she is giving you half, that means she keeps half. That is another 250 grand sitting in her pocket. So we take it all, Mom. How she is not just going to hand it over. Kevin's voice dropped lower, but I could still hear him. It was the voice of a predator. We get her drunk tonight. We celebrate. We get her to sign something. Or hell, we just drug her. You still have those sleeping pills the doctor gave you. Kevin, no. Loretta sounded shocked, but not too shocked. That is dangerous. It is not dangerous. We crush a few into her champagne. She passes out. We access her phone. We transfer the rest of the funds. By the time she wakes up, we tell her she transferred it herself while she was drunk. Who is she going to tell the police? She is scared of her own shadow. I stood there at the bottom of the stairs, feeling my blood turn to ice. They were not just thieves. They were monsters. They were willing to drug me, to rob me blind, to leave me with nothing. I heard a car door slam outside. Shh, Loretta hissed. That is Tiffany and Marcus. Get back in the attic. Do not make a sound until I come get you. I heard heavy footsteps retreating, then the sound of a ladder retracting. I ran back to the kitchen. My heart was racing. I checked the hidden camera on my purse. It was recording. The audio from the bugs would pick up everything. I had them. I had the conspiracy. I had the intent to commit a crime. But I needed more. I needed them to admit the past crimes. I needed them to admit the insurance fraud. The front door opened. Hello, anyone home? It was Tiffany. Her voice was bright and cheery. I walked out to the foyer. Tiffany was standing there with Marcus. Marcus looked tired. He was a big man like Kevin, but softer. Kinder eyes. He was wearing a flannel shirt and jeans, holding a duffel bag. He looked like he had just driven 10 hours, which he probably had. Hey, Jada! Tiffany squealed. She ran over and gave me a fake hug. Look at you. You look gorgeous. Is that a new dress? Yes, I said, pulling away. I wanted to look nice for Kevin. Hey, Jada. Marcus stepped forward. He gave me a real hug. A bear hug. It felt warm. It felt safe. It is good to see you, he said. It has been a while. It has, Marcus. I am glad you are here. I looked at him closely. Did he know? He looked exhausted. He had bags under his eyes. He did not look like a man who was sitting on a $2 million secret. He looked like a man who was working himself to death. Loretta came bounding down the stairs. She was beaming. Marcus, baby, you made it. She hugged her son. Then she looked at Tiffany. Did you tell him? Loretta asked. Tell him what Marcus asked, looking confused. Jada won the lottery, Loretta shouted, throwing her hands up. $500,000, and she is sharing it with the family. Marcus's jaw dropped. He looked at me. For real? Jada, for real, I said. Wow, that is amazing. Good for you. You deserve it. You have been through hell. He smiled. It was a genuine smile. No greed, no calculation, just happiness for me. Okay, he is innocent, I thought, or he is the best actor in the world. But my gut told me he was innocent, which meant he was about to get hurt, badly. Come on, Loretta ushered us into the dining room. Let's eat. Jada got all this food. Let's celebrate. We sat down. I sat at the head of the table, Loretta on my right, Tiffany on my left, Marcus next to Tiffany. There was an empty chair at the other end, Kevin's chair. I poured wine for everyone, expensive red wine. I raised my glass. To Kevin, I said. To Kevin, they all echoed. I took a sip. So Jada, Tiffany said, leaning forward. Her eyes were glittering. Tell us about the money. Is it all in your checking account? Yes, I said. I transferred it this morning. And you are really giving Loretta half? Tiffany asked. She kicked Loretta under the table. I saw the tablecloth move. Yes, I want to clear the debt. The debt, Marcus said, frowning. What debt? Loretta froze. Tiffany froze. I looked at Marcus. You do not know about the debt, Marcus. The money Kevin owed. The money I have been paying Mom for 8 years. Marcus looked from me to his mother. What are you talking about? Kevin didn't have any debt. Kevin was loaded. He made a killing in the market right before he died. The silence in the room was absolute. Loretta laughed nervously. Oh, Marcus, you do not know everything. Kevin had some private business. Bullcrap, Marcus said. I knew Kevin's finances. I helped him with his taxes that last year. He was clean, Mom. Why has Jada been paying you? I watched Loretta squirm. This was it. The cracks were forming. It is complicated, Marcus, Loretta snapped. Just eat your dinner. No, I said, setting my glass down. Let's talk about it, because if I am paying $250,000, I want to make sure it is going to the right place. I looked at Tiffany. Tiffany, you were close to Kevin. Did you know about the loan sharks? Tiffany choked on her wine. She coughed, wiping her mouth with a napkin. I knew he was in trouble. Yes, he told me he was scared. Really, I asked, because I found some old messages on an iPad recently. Tiffany went pale. What iPad? Just an old one. I lied smoothly. I was going through some boxes, and it seemed like you and Kevin were talking a lot right before he died. About a boat and about insurance. Tiffany's hand shook so bad she knocked over her water glass. Ice cubes skittered across the table. I do not know what you are talking about, she stammered. Marcus looked at his wife. Tiffany, what is she talking about? Nothing. She is crazy. She is just trying to start drama. I am not starting drama, I said calmly. I am just confused, because I called the insurance company yesterday, Pioneer Life. Loretta dropped her fork. It clattered loudly against the china plate. And they told me I continued keeping my eyes on Loretta, that the policy was paid out, $2 million. To you, Loretta. Marcus stood up. He knocked his chair over. Mom, is that true? Loretta was hyperventilating. She looked at the ceiling. She was looking for help. She was looking for Kevin. It was for the house. It was for the family. $2 million, Marcus shouted. And you made Jada pay you rent. You made her pay debt. Where's the money, Mom? It is gone, Loretta screamed. It is gone. We spent it. We, Marcus asked. Who is we? Loretta covered her mouth. I leaned forward. Yes, Loretta, who is we? Is it just you and Tiffany? Or is there someone else I saw? Tiffany's eyes dart to the ceiling. I knew he was listening. I knew he was up there, probably pacing, probably raging. Suddenly there was a loud crash from upstairs, like something heavy falling. What was that? Marcus asked, looking up. Raccoons, Loretta yelled. We have raccoons in the attic. That did not sound like a raccoon, Marcus said. He started walking towards the stairs. I am going to check. No, Tiffany screamed. She jumped up and grabbed his arm. Do not go up there, Marcus. It is not safe. Get off me, Tiffany. Marcus shoved her away. He was angry now. He was a big man, and he was moving with purpose. He marched to the hallway. He pulled the cord for the attic ladder. I sat there watching. My heart was in my throat. The ladder slid down. Marcus climbed up. We all sat in silence. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Then we heard a yell, a shout of pure shock. What the hell? Then the sound of a scuffle, bodies hitting the floor. Get off me! Let me go! It was Kevin's voice. I stood up. I walked to the hallway. Loretta and Tiffany were huddled together, shaking. Marcus came down the ladder. He was dragging someone. He had him in a headlock. He dragged him into the foyer and threw him onto the floor. The man on the floor groaned. He rolled over. He looked up. It was Kevin. He was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. He looked older, fatter, but it was him. Marcus stood over him, chest heaving. He looked like he was about to vomit. Kevin, he whispered. Kevin looked around. He saw Loretta. He saw Tiffany. And then he saw me. He did not look ashamed. He did not look sorry. He looked annoyed. Well, Kevin said, wiping blood from his lip. Surprise! I looked at him. I looked at the man I had mourned for 8 years. Hi, Kevin, I said. Or is it David now? Kevin sneered. You smart-ass bitch. You set us up. I did, I said. And guess what? There is no lottery money. There is no 500,000. Kevin's face went purple. What I lied, I said, smiling. Just like you lied, except my lie didn't cost anyone 8 years of their life. You have nothing, Kevin spat. You have no proof. Who are they going to believe, a crazy nurse or a dead man? I pointed to my purse on the table. I have a camera in there, Kevin. It has been recording for the last hour. I have bugs in the kitchen and the living room. I have your mother admitting to the fraud. I have Tiffany panicking. And now I have you, in the flesh. Kevin scrambled to his feet. He looked dangerous. He looked like he was going to attack. Give me the bag, he growled, stepping towards me. Marcus stepped in between us. You touch her, Marcus said, his voice low and deadly, and I will finish what the ocean didn't. Kevin laughed. Oh, look at you, the protective little brother. You think she is innocent? She is the one who drove me to this. She was boring. She was suffocating. I needed to breathe. You needed to breathe. So you slept with my wife, Marcus asked. I saw the realization hit Marcus. He looked at Tiffany. Tiffany was crying now, ugly sobbing. Marcus, please. He made me... Shut up, Marcus roared. He turned back to Kevin. You are not my brother. My brother died 8 years ago. You are just a piece of trash. Kevin lunged. He didn't go for me. He went for the door. He was running. But I had one more surprise. I opened the front door. Blue and red lights flooded the driveway. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. I called them 10 minutes ago, I said, right when Loretta choked on her egg. Kevin stopped. He looked at the police cars. He looked back at us. He was trapped. The game is over, Kevin, I said. 2 officers walked up the driveway, hand on their holsters. Kevin Washington, one of them, asked. Kevin looked at me one last time. His eyes were full of hate. This isn't over. Jada, he hissed. Oh, yes, it is, I said. I watched as they handcuffed him. I watched as they handcuffed Loretta. I watched as they handcuffed Tiffany. Marcus stood next to me, watching his entire family get dragged away. I am sorry, Marcus, I said softly. He didn't look at me. He just stared at the empty driveway. "I lost my brother twice," he whispered. "And my wife. And my mother." "You didn't lose them," I said. "You just found out who they really were." I walked over to my car. I picked up the catering tray of deviled eggs. I walked back to where Loretta was sitting in the back of the police car. The window was down. I held up an egg. "You want one for the road, Mama?" I asked, "since you didn't get to finish your dinner." She spat at me. I laughed. I turned around and walked away. The emerald green dress swished around my legs. The heels clicked on the pavement. I was broke. I was alone. But I was free. And that was worth more than $2 million. I sat in the driver's seat of my car parked 3 blocks away from the house, under the shade of a massive weeping willow tree. My hands were trembling so badly that it took me 3 tries to plug the headphones into the receiver Derek had given me. The sun was starting to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of bruised purple and blood orange. It was a beautiful evening for a funeral or a murder. I had told Loretta I needed to run to the store to get more ice for the party. It was a lie. I had plenty of ice. What I needed was information. I needed to know exactly what I was walking into before I opened that front door again. I needed to know if I was dealing with thieves or if I was dealing with devils. I pressed the power button on the receiver. A sharp burst of static filled my ears, making me wince. I adjusted the frequency dial slowly, my fingers slick with sweat. The static hissed and popped like frying bacon, and then suddenly it cleared. The sound was crystal clear. It was coming from the bug I had stuck under the kitchen island. I could hear the hum of the refrigerator. I could hear the clink of glass against granite. And then I heard him. "Pass me the whiskey, Mom." The voice was rough, deep. It was the voice that used to whisper, "I love you," in my ear before I fell asleep. It was the voice that had promised to protect me and cherish me until death do us part. Hearing it now through a wire while sitting alone in a dark car felt like a violation. It felt like a ghost was haunting me through the radio waves. I heard the sound of liquid being poured. "Easy, Kevin," Loretta's voice chimed in. She sounded nervous. Her voice had a tremor in it that I recognized. It was the same tone she used when she was lying to the debt collectors. "You need to keep a clear head. She is going to be back any minute." Kevin let out a scoff, a wet, arrogant sound. "I am fine, Mom. I've been hiding in this attic for 3 days like a rat. I deserve a drink. Besides, Jada is too stupid to notice anything. She's probably hyperventilating in the frozen food aisle right now, worrying about whether she got the right kind of ice cubes." I gripped the steering wheel. My knuckles turned white. He spoke about me with such casual disdain. Like I was an insect, like I was nothing. "We need to go over the plan again," Loretta said. "I am worried, Kevin. What if the pills do not work? What if she wakes up? What if she tastes it in the food? She is not going to taste anything." Kevin snapped. "I crushed them into a fine powder. You are going to mix it into that potato salad she likes so much. The mayonnaise will cover the bitterness. She will eat it, she will have a glass of wine, and 20 minutes later she will be out cold." "And then what?" Loretta asked. "And then we get her phone," Kevin said, his voice dropping to a low menacing growl. "We use her Face ID to unlock it while she is unconscious. We transfer the remaining $250,000 to the offshore account. We wipe the phone, and then what?" Kevin Loretta pressed. There was a long silence. I held my breath. The air in the car felt thin, like all the oxygen had been sucked out. "Then we make sure she does not wake up." My heart stopped, literally skipped a beat, and then slammed against my ribs like a sledgehammer. "What do you mean?" Loretta whispered. "I mean we finish it, Mom." Kevin's voice was cold, devoid of any humanity. "We cannot leave loose ends. If she wakes up and sees her bank account is empty, she might finally grow a spine and go to the cops. We cannot risk that, not with the life insurance fraud hanging over our heads." "So, you want to kill her?" I heard the clink of the glass again. Kevin taking another drink. "Conscience getting to you now. After 8 years. Don't be soft, Mom. I should have killed her 8 years ago, instead of just faking the accident. It would have been cleaner. I should have put a bullet in her head back in 2016 and saved us all this trouble." I clamped a hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. Tears, hot and fast, streamed down my cheeks. This was the man I had grieved for. This was the man I had built a shrine to in my heart. He didn't just want to leave me, he wanted to execute me. But how, Loretta asked. Her voice was shaking, but she wasn't saying no. She was asking for logistics. She was an accomplice to murder. It is simple, Kevin said. You give her the second dose, the lethal dose. We mix it with the alcohol. It will look like an overdose or a stroke. She has been working double shifts. She is exhausted. She is stressed. The coroner will see a tired, overworked nurse who mixed sleeping pills with wine and had a bad reaction. She will start foaming at the mouth a little bit, her heart will stop, and it will be over. Kanya na daw buwan kwa madot kui. Consider it a mercy killing. She dies of a broken heart. How poetic. Foaming at the mouth. The image hit me like a physical blow. I saw myself lying on their kitchen floor, my body convulsing, foam spilling from my lips while they stood over me and watched. I saw Kevin sipping his whiskey, stepping over my dying body to check his bank balance. I felt a wave of nausea so violent I had to open the car door and dry heave onto the pavement. My stomach was empty, but my body was trying to reject the horror of what I had just heard. I spat on the ground and wiped my mouth with the back of my hand. I sat back up and pulled the door shut. I looked at the receiver. The little red light was still blinking, recording, capturing every word. But what about the body, Loretta asked. We call 911 in the morning, Kevin said. We say we found her like that. You play the grieving mother-in-law again. You are good at that. You cry, you scream, you faint. The police will write it off as an accidental overdose. Case closed. And we keep the full $500,000, plus the house. You are a monster, Kevin, Loretta said, but she said it with admiration, not disgust. I am a survivor, Mom, Kevin corrected, and Jada. Jada is just a stepping stone. She served her purpose. She paid the bills for 8 years. Now she is going to pay for our retirement. I took the headphones off. I could not listen to another word. If I heard his voice for one more second, I was going to lose my mind. I sat there in the silence of the car. The tears had stopped. The fear had evaporated. In its place was something else, something cold and hard and heavy. For 8 years I had been Jada the victim. Jada the widow, Jada the fool. I had let them define me. I had let their lies shape my reality. I had loved a phantom and served a master who despised me. But that Jada died the moment Kevin said the words foaming at the mouth. The woman sitting in the car now was not a victim. She was not a nurse. She was a soldier. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were dry. My jaw was set. He wanted to kill me. He wanted to watch me die. Okay, Kevin. Challenge accepted. But you made one mistake. You underestimated the prey. You thought I was a sheep because I was kind. You forgot that kindness is a choice, not a weakness. And tonight, I am making a different choice. I checked the recording. Saved. Backed up to the cloud. I checked my purse. The second camera was running. I checked my phone. Derek had the live feed. He had heard everything. He was probably mobilizing the cavalry right now. But I wasn't waiting for the cavalry. I had a role to play. I started the car. The engine purred to life. I put the car in drive and pulled out onto the street. I drove slowly, deliberately back toward the house. I am coming home, Kevin, I whispered to the empty car. I am coming home to give you exactly what you asked for. You want a tragedy. You want a body. You want a show. I pulled into the driveway. The house loomed above me, dark and menacing. The windows were like eyes watching me. I grabbed the bag of ice from the passenger seat. It was cold against my skin. I walked up the path. I was walking into a trap. I was walking into a room with 2 people who planned to poison me within the hour. But I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. Fear is for people who have something to lose. I had already lost everything. My husband, my marriage, my memories, my trust. They had taken it all. All I had left was the truth. And the truth is a dangerous weapon when you know how to use it. I reached for the door handle. Take a deep breath, Jada. Smile. I opened the door. Honey, I called out, my voice bright and cheerful, echoing through the hallway of the house that was built on lies. I am back, and I brought the ice. Let the party begin. The living room of the Washington estate was transformed into a sanctuary of sorrow and expensive flowers. The air was thick with the scent of white lilies and expensive perfume, a combination that always made my stomach turn. It smelled like a funeral parlor, but with better catering. I stood in the hallway smoothing down the silk of my emerald green dress, watching the guests arrive. They were a mix of family friends, curious neighbors, and members of the church who had come to pay their respects to the saintly widow and the grieving mother. Pastor Jenkins was there holding a plate of deviled eggs, shaking his head solemnly as he listened to Auntie Sarah gossip about how thin I looked. I saw Ms. Higgins, my neighbor, standing in the corner. She gave me a subtle nod. She was the only person in this room besides me who knew that this was not a memorial service. It was an execution. I walked into the room, and the chatter died down. All eyes were on me. I put on my mask, the sad smile, the humble posture, the grieving wife who had finally caught a break. But the real show was in the center of the room. Loretta was sitting in a wheelchair. A wheelchair. I almost laughed out loud when I saw it. Yesterday she was walking around the kitchen just fine, pouring whiskey and plotting murder. Today she was slumped over, covered in a black lace shawl, looking like she couldn't lift a finger. She was playing the role of the frail, heartbroken mother to perfection. Tiffany was right beside her, kneeling on the floor, holding Loretta's hand. She was wearing a modest black dress that was tight enough to show off her figure, but conservative enough for the pastor. She was dabbing at her dry eyes with a handkerchief every time someone looked at her. It was a masterclass in manipulation. I walked over to them. "Mama," I said, my voice soft, "you look comfortable." Loretta looked up at me. Her eyes were sharp and alert despite her slumped posture. She gripped my hand with a strength that betrayed her act. "Jada, baby, I just felt so weak today. The memories, they are just too much for my old heart. Did you bring the check?" That was the first thing she asked. Not "how are you?" Not "thank you for the party." Just "did you bring the check?" I patted her hand. "Don't worry, Mama. Everything is taken care of. Just relax. You are going to get exactly what you deserve tonight." I saw a flicker of confusion in her eyes, but greed pushed it away. She squeezed my hand again. "You are a good girl, Jada." Kevin is smiling down on us. I fought the urge to vomit. Oh, he is smiling all right, I thought. He is smiling right up until the moment I wiped that grin off his face. I walked over to the makeshift stage area where we had set up a large projection screen. It was supposed to be for a slideshow of Kevin's life. Baby photos, wedding photos, memories of a man who died too young. I checked the laptop connected to the projector. The file was queued up. It wasn't the slideshow Tiffany had sent me. It was the file named The Truth. I looked at the clock. 7 p.m. Everyone was here. The room was full. The trap was set. I picked up a champagne glass and a spoon. Clink, clink, clink. The sound cut through the murmurs of the crowd. The room went silent. Pastor Jenkins put down his egg. Auntie Sarah stopped talking. Every face turned towards me. "Good evening, everyone." I began, my voice trembling slightly. Not from fear, but from the sheer adrenaline coursing through my veins. "Thank you all for coming. Thank you for being here to honor the memory of my husband, Kevin Washington. It has been 8 years, 8 long years of silence, 8 years of questions, 8 years of missing a man who defined my life." I looked at Loretta. She was dabbing her eyes, nodding encouragingly. She wanted me to wrap this up so she could get her money. I looked at Tiffany. She was giving me a thumbs up her face, a mask of supportive sisterhood. We all know the story. I continued walking slowly back and forth in front of the screen. Kevin went fishing. The boat capsized. He was lost at sea. And I was left behind to pick up the pieces. I paused. I let the silence hang heavy in the room. But I wasn't alone. I had his family. I gestured to the 2 women. I had Loretta, my mother-in-law, a woman who took me in. A woman who told me that family means sacrifice. A woman who has carried a burden so heavy it put her in that wheelchair today. The crowd murmured their sympathy. Loretta lowered her head, accepting the praise like a queen accepting tribute. "And I had Tiffany," I said. "My sister-in-law, my best friend, the woman who held my hand at the funeral, the woman who told me that secrets destroy families and that we should always be honest with each other." Tiffany beamed. She looked around the room, making sure everyone saw how wonderful she was. "You all heard the rumors," I said, raising my voice slightly. "You heard that I won the lottery. You heard that I came into $500,000. Loretta sat up straighter. This was it, the payout. Well, I said, looking directly into Loretta's eyes, I have a confession to make. I did not win the lottery. The room went deadly silent. You could hear a pin drop. Loretta's mouth opened. The act slipped. She looked furious. I didn't win $500,000. I said, my voice growing stronger, colder. I don't have a check for you, Mama. I don't have a check for anyone. Tiffany stood up. Her face was flushed. What do you mean, Jada? She asked, her voice high and tight. You said, you promised. I lied. I cut her off. I lied to you, Tiffany, just like you lied to me. I turned back to the crowd. I didn't find money, but I found something much more valuable. I found the truth, and I think it is time we all shared in that truth. Because Kevin isn't smiling down on us from heaven. I walked over to the laptop. He is actually much closer than you think. I hit the space bar. The giant screen behind me flickered to life. It wasn't a picture of Kevin in his football uniform. It wasn't a picture of our wedding day. It was a video. High definition. Crystal clear. It showed a kitchen. This kitchen. The granite countertops were unmistakable. The date stamp in the corner was from 3 days ago. On the screen, Kevin walked into the frame. Gasps rippled through the room. That is Kevin, someone whispered. Is that an old video? Auntie Sarah asked loud enough for everyone to hear. On the screen, Kevin was holding a glass of whiskey. He looked older. He was heavier, but he was alive. He looked at the camera, not knowing he was being recorded, and took a sip. I should have killed her 8 years ago. The voice on the screen boomed through the surround sound speakers. Pastor Jenkins dropped his plate. It shattered on the hardwood floor, but nobody looked down. Everyone was frozen, staring at the screen. Loretta in the wheelchair let out a strangled noise. She tried to stand up, forgetting she was supposed to be crippled. She waved her arms frantically at me. Turn it off, she screamed. Jada, turn it off right now. I didn't move. I stood there like a statue, watching my work unfold. On the screen, Loretta's voice answered him. But how, Kevin? We poison her, the on-screen. Kevin said casually. We put the pills in her food. She eats, she sleeps, she dies. The crowd erupted. People were screaming. Ms. Higgins was shouting, "Hallelujah," from the corner. Tiffany lunged for the laptop. She was fast, but I was ready. I stepped in front of her, blocking her path. Don't you dare, I hissed. Let them watch. On the screen, Kevin was laughing now. That wet, arrogant laugh. She will start foaming at the mouth a little bit, he said. Her heart will stop and it will be over. Consider it a mercy killing. She dies of a broken heart. The horror in the room was palpable. It was a physical weight. These people were churchgoers. They were decent people, and they were watching a man they thought was a tragic hero discuss murdering his wife like he was discussing the weather. You monster, Auntie Sarah yelled, pointing at the screen. You devil, Loretta was clawing at her own throat. She looked like she couldn't breathe. She looked at the guests, her eyes pleading for understanding, but all she saw was disgust. Kevin continued on the screen. Jada is just a stepping stone. She served her purpose. She paid the bills for 8 years. Now she's going to pay for our retirement. The video ended. The screen went black. For a second there was total silence, the kind of silence that comes after a bomb goes off. Then I spoke. That is the man you are mourning, I said, my voice ringing out clear and true. That is the man I sent $300 to every month. That is the son of this woman sitting in that wheelchair who can walk perfectly fine when she is plotting to kill me. Loretta sank back into the chair, covering her face with her hands. That is the lover of the woman standing right here, I pointed at Tiffany. My sister-in-law, my best friend. Tiffany was shaking her head, backing away. No, it's not what it looks like. It is exactly what it looks like, I said. I looked around the room. I saw the shock on their faces. I saw the anger. I invited you all here because I wanted witnesses, I said. I wanted you to see them, not the masks they wear on Sunday morning, but the faces they wear in the dark. I looked at Pastor Jenkins. Pastor, I said, you always told me that the truth shall set you free. I took a deep breath. I have never felt more free in my life. Suddenly we heard a noise from upstairs, a loud thud, then shouting. Everyone looked at the ceiling. You all hear that, I asked. That is the ghost. I looked at the stairs, and I think he is about to make a guest appearance. The sound of sirens began to wail in the distance, getting louder and louder, closing in on the house like the hands of judgment. Loretta looked at the door, then at the window. She realized there was no escape. She looked at me, and for the first time in 8 years, I saw fear, real, genuine terror. "Why, Jada?" she whispered. "Why did you have to do this here? Why in front of everyone?" "Because Mama," I said, leaning down so only she could hear me. "You humiliated me for 8 years. You made me small. You made me beg." I straightened up and smoothed my dress. I wanted to return the favor. The front door burst open, but it wasn't the police yet. It was Marcus. He had come down from the attic where he had found his brother. He stood at the top of the stairs, looking down at the party, looking down at his wife and his mother. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. The look of betrayal on his face was louder than any scream. He pointed a finger at Tiffany, and then he pointed at the door. The police rushed in, and the party really started. The silence that followed the video lasted for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds where the air in the room was so thick you could have cut it with a knife. And then the room exploded. It wasn't just noise, it was chaos. It was the sound of 50 people realizing that their reality had just been shattered into a million jagged pieces. Pastor Jenkins dropped his Bible. Auntie Sarah let out a scream that sounded like a police siren. Ms. Higgins shouted "Hallelujah" loudly enough to wake the dead, which was ironic, considering what was about to happen. Loretta was the first to react. She knew the game was up, and she played her final card. She let out a wail that shook the windows. She clutched her chest with both hands, her face twisting into a mask of agony. "My heart," she screamed. "Oh Lord, my heart is giving out." She slumped sideways in her wheelchair, sliding halfway onto the floor. It was a performance worthy of an Academy Award. 2 of the church deacons rushed forward to help her, their faces full of panic. But I didn't move. I stood there in my emerald green dress, watching her writhe on the floor. I knew her blood pressure was fine. I knew her heart was as strong as a horse. The only thing hurting Loretta Washington right now was her pride, and the realization that her bank account was about to be seized by the federal government. Tiffany was not playing the victim. She was playing the cornered rat. She saw the video loop starting again on the screen behind me. She saw Kevin's face projected 10 feet high, confessing to attempted murder. She lunged for the table. She was trying to get to the laptop, trying to rip the cords out of the wall, trying to make the truth disappear. Her eyes were wild. Her hair was flying around her face. She looked like a woman possessed. "Turn it off!" she shrieked, clawing at the HDMI cable. "You are lying! This is fake! It is AI! It is a deep fake!" I didn't have to stop her. Marcus stepped in. He grabbed her wrist before she could touch the computer. He didn't hurt her, but he held her firm. His face was like stone. "Leave it, Tiffany," he said. "Everyone has seen it. It is too late." Suddenly, a sound cut through the screaming and the crying. It was a sound coming from above our heads, a heavy mechanical creak that made everyone freeze. Creak! Thud. All eyes turned to the ceiling, to the hallway, to the panel in the roof that led to the attic where Loretta kept her Christmas decorations, the attic where she said she heard raccoons. Slowly, terrifyingly, the attic hatch began to lower. The folding ladder slid down, clicking into place one rung at a time. It was like watching a horror movie where the monster is finally revealing itself. The guests backed away, pressing themselves against the walls. Some were holding their breath. Some were praying. Heavy boots hit the ladder. Step, step, step. But it wasn't a ghost coming down those stairs. First came a police officer, a large man in a dark uniform, his hand resting on his holster. He stepped off the ladder and moved to the side, and then came the resurrection. Kevin Washington, my husband, the man we were all here to mourn, the man whose smiling face was printed on the memorial programs clutched in everyone's trembling hands. He was not the handsome, well-groomed man in the photo. He was a mess. He was wearing gray sweatpants that were stained at the knees and a wrinkled t-shirt that was too tight around his stomach. He hadn't shaved in days. His eyes were red-rimmed and frantic. His hands were zip-tied behind his back. A second officer followed him down, pushing him forward. "Move it," the officer barked. The moment Kevin's feet touched the floor, the room lost its collective mind. People screamed. Really screamed. It was the primal, terrified sound of humans seeing something that should not exist. A woman in the front row fainted dead away, hitting the carpet with a soft thump. Pastor Jenkins started speaking in tongues, backing away until he hit the buffet table, knocking over a tray of sandwiches. "It is a ghost," someone shouted. "It is a demon," someone else yelled. "No," I said, my voice cutting through the hysteria. "It is not a demon. It is just a con artist in dirty sweatpants." Kevin looked up. He scanned the room. He saw the faces of his neighbors, his friends, his family. He saw the horror and the disgust in their eyes. He saw his mother still faking a heart attack on the floor. And then he saw me. Our eyes locked across the room. For 8 years I had imagined what I would say if I ever saw him again. I thought I would cry. I thought I would scream. I thought I would fall apart. But looking at him now, I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. He wasn't a monster. He was just a small, pathetic man who got caught. His eyes, however, were burning with hate, pure, unadulterated hatred. If looks could kill, I would have dropped dead right there next to the projector screen. He curled his lip into a snarl. He looked like a wolf that had been trapped in a cage. "You bitch," he mouthed. I didn't say anything. I just raised my champagne glass in a silent toast. "Gotcha." The police officer shoved him forward. "Let's go, Washington. You have the right to remain silent." As they marched him through the living room, the crowd parted like the Red Sea. Nobody wanted to touch him. Nobody wanted to be near him. The smell coming off him was a mix of stale whiskey and fear. Tiffany saw him being led away, and something inside her snapped. She realized there was no talking her way out of this. She realized Marcus knew. She realized the police were here. She realized her life as she knew it was over. She bolted. She didn't run toward her husband. She didn't run toward her mother-in-law. She ran for the back door. She kicked off her high heels and took off sprinting across the hardwood floor, slipping and sliding in her panic. She was fast, but I was closer. I didn't think. I just reacted. It was instinct. The instinct of a woman who was done being walked over. As she tried to scramble past me, I stepped forward. I didn't grab her. I didn't hit her. I just calmly, casually extended my right leg. My emerald green stiletto caught her right on the ankle. It was perfect. It was poetic. Tiffany went down hard. She flew forward, arms flailing, trying to catch herself, but it was too late. She hit the floor with a sickening thud, sliding across the polished wood. She didn't just fall anywhere. She slid right into the table set up as the memorial shrine. Crash. The table wobbled and tipped over. The large framed portrait of Kevin, the candles, the vase of white lilies, they all came crashing down on top of her. The glass from the picture frame shattered, raining shards down around her. The water from the vase soaked her black dress. The white lilies scattered over her like she was the one in the casket. She lay there in the wreckage of the shrine she had helped build. She was covered in water and flowers and broken glass, gasping for air, looking up at the ceiling with wide, terrified eyes. I walked over to her. I stood over her, looking down from my height, my dress flowing around me like armor. She looked up at me. Her lip was bleeding. Her mascara was running down her face. She looked pathetic. "Jada," she whimpered. "Jada, please, I didn't mean to." I leaned down. I looked her right in the eye. "Careful, Tiffany," I whispered. "You are making a mess of Kevin's memorial. Show some respect for the dead." 2 more officers came through the front door. They saw Tiffany lying in the pile of broken glass. They saw Loretta on the floor by the wheelchair. They saw Kevin in handcuffs. I stepped back. I smoothed my dress. I took a deep breath of the air that no longer smelled like lies. I looked at the guests who were still huddled in the corners, trembling. "I am sorry about the mess, everyone," I said, my voice calm and steady. "But I think the entertainment is over. Please drive home safely." And as the police hauled Tiffany up from the floor, dragging her out to join her lover and her mother-in-law, I finally let myself smile. A real smile. The ghost was gone. The debt was paid. And the house? Well, the house was finally mine. The weeks following that dinner party were a blur of depositions and flashing blue lights and men in suits. You know how they say the wheels of justice turn slowly? Well, in my case, they turned with the speed and force of a freight train. Because I had involved Derek, and because we had that damning recording, the district attorney did not hesitate. They did not just charge them with local crimes. They brought in the feds. It turns out faking your death to collect $2 million crosses state lines and involves federal banking regulations. The FBI was very interested in Kevin Washington, or David Vance, as his fake passport claimed. They were interested in how he moved the money. They were interested in the shell companies Tiffany set up, and they were especially interested in the recording where he discussed poisoning a U.S. citizen. The trial was the hottest ticket in Atlanta. I sat in the front row every single day, wearing my best suits, keeping my head high. I watched as the prosecutor laid it all out. Count 1, federal insurance fraud. They proved that Kevin and Loretta conspired to stage the accident. They had receipts for the boat rental. They had text messages. They had the wire transfers. Count 2. Aggravated identity theft. Kevin living as David Vance was not just a disguise, it was a felony. Count 3. Extortion. This was the one that made the jury gasp. The prosecutor showed the bank records of my monthly payments. $300 every month for 96 months. He showed the text messages where Kevin called me a cash cow. He showed how they used my guilt to fund their lifestyle while they sat on a mountain of stolen cash. But the nail in the coffin was the conspiracy to commit murder charge. When they played that tape in the courtroom, you could hear a pin drop. Hearing Kevin's voice so calm and cold, discussing how to make me foam at the mouth, turned the jury's stomachs. Loretta tried to play the frail old woman card again. She showed up to court in her wheelchair with an oxygen tank. But the prosecutor was ready. He played video footage from a surveillance camera at a liquor store 2 days before the arrest. It showed Loretta walking perfectly fine, carrying a heavy box of wine. The judge was not amused. He told her to sit up and stop acting. Tiffany tried to turn on them. She took the stand and cried crocodile tears, saying Kevin forced her into it. She said she was a victim of his manipulation. But then Derek produced the emails where Tiffany was the one researching non-extradition countries and how to launder money through cryptocurrency. She was not a victim. She was the CFO of their criminal enterprise. The verdict came back in 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing was my favorite part. Kevin got 20 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole. The judge looked him in the eye and said, "Mr. Washington, you are a man who had everything and threw it away for greed. You wanted to be dead to the world, so the court grants your wish. You will be buried in the system for the next 2 decades. Loretta got 15 years. At her age, that is a life sentence. She screamed as they took her away, cursing my name. Tiffany got 10 years. Marcus was there that day. He sat in the back. He had filed for divorce the morning after the arrest. He looked sad, but relieved. He looked like a man who had finally cut out a cancer. But prison was not enough for me. I wanted my life back. I wanted restitution. So I sued them. I filed a massive civil lawsuit against Kevin, Loretta, and Tiffany for intentional infliction of emotional distress fraud and unjust enrichment. Since Kevin was legally alive again, his assets were no longer protected by the death certificate. The government seized the $2 million, or what was left of it. But because the money was obtained through fraud, it had to be returned to the insurance company. That left Kevin broke. However, the house was different. The house that Loretta lived in. The house that Kevin and I bought together, but he had put in his name. My lawyer argued that the money I paid over 8 years plus the emotional damages I suffered entitled me to compensation. The judge agreed. He was disgusted by their behavior. In a landmark ruling, the court awarded me the property. They also seized a hidden offshore account that Tiffany had tried to keep secret. It had about $150,000 in it. The judge declared that money to be the proceeds of crime and awarded it to me as punitive damages. I walked out of that courthouse not as a widow, not as a victim, but as a landowner and a woman with a substantial settlement check in her purse. People asked me if I felt sad sending my family to prison. They asked if I felt guilty. I told them the truth. I slept like a baby that night. Justice does not feel like revenge. It feels like balance. It feels like the world finally tilting back on its axis after being upside down for 8 years. 2 weeks later, I stood on the sidewalk looking up at the house. Loretta's house, Kevin's house, my house. It looked different now. The grass was a little overgrown because there was no one to cut it. The windows were dark. It looked just like any other house in the suburbs. It did not look like a fortress of lies anymore. It just looked like brick and mortar. I walked up the driveway. I had the keys in my hand. The real keys this time, not the spare one I had to hide. I walked inside. The furniture was still there. The expensive smoker grill was still on the patio. The fake lilies were still in the vase. I walked through every room. I went to the attic where Kevin had hidden. I went to the kitchen where they had plotted to poison me. I stood in the center of the living room, and I took a deep breath. I thought I would feel triumphant. I thought I would want to move in and repaint the walls and burn sage and make it mine. But as I stood there, I realized something. I hated this house. It smelled like them. It felt like them. Every corner held a memory of a lie. Every floorboard creaked with the weight of their deception. I did not want to live here. I did not want to sleep in a bedroom where my husband slept with his brother's wife. I did not want to cook in a kitchen where my mother-in-law tried to kill me. I walked back out to the front yard. A real estate agent was waiting for me by her car. She looked at me expectantly. "Are you ready to list it, Jada?" she asked. "The market is hot right now. We can get a great price." I handed her the keys. "List it," I said. "Sell it. Sell everything inside it. The furniture, the grill, the curtains. I want it all gone." "And what about the proceeds?" she asked. "What are you going to do with the money?" I smiled. "I am going to build something real." I took the money from the sale of the house and the settlement from Tiffany's account, and I did exactly what I said I would do. I opened the Washington Women's Wellness Clinic, but I took the name Washington off the sign. It is just the Jada Clinic now. It is a free clinic for women of color in downtown Atlanta. We provide prenatal care, mental health support, and legal advocacy for women trapped in abusive or coercive financial situations. Every day I walk through those doors and I see women who look just like I did 8 years ago, scared, tired, drowning in debt and obligation. And I tell them my story. I tell them about the $300. I tell them about the ghost in the attic. I tell them about the emerald green dress. I tell them that they are not alone and that they are stronger than they think. Kevin sits in a 6x8 cell 23 hours a day. Loretta is in a geriatric prison ward. Tiffany is working in the prison laundry, and me, I am standing here in the sun. I signed the final papers for the sale of the house yesterday. As I put my pen down, I felt the last chain fall away. I do not hate them anymore. Hate takes too much energy. I just pity them. They had everything, and they lost it because they could not be satisfied. They underestimated the one person they should have feared. The quiet woman, the loyal woman, the woman who pays the bills on time. So this is my message to you. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it is wrong. If someone demands your silence or your suffering as proof of your love, they do not love you. They are using you. Do not be like the old Jada. Do not wait 8 years to check the attic. Check the cameras. Ask the hard questions. And never ever let anyone make you feel like you owe them your life. My name is Jada. I am 34 years old. I am a nurse. I am a survivor. And I am finally free. If you liked this story, if you felt that justice in your bones, please hit that share button. Send this to a friend who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below and tell me what you would have done with the money. Don't let your kindness be your weakness. Let it be your superpower. But keep a sharp sword behind your back just in case. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and stay woke.